Hola! Welcome back to what turns out this year to be a bit of Murdock's continuous 60s music minute. Today's album review contains the trademark sound of the Vox Continental organ, a singer from Mars, and the song suited best for cutting onions. Cheap sci-fi movies and drive-in horror flicks were all the rage in the 50s and 60s, and also superhero comic magazines became more and more popular. Hence, it's probably only natural that a band would use those elements to create a frontman who simply called himself question mark and invented stories about being from Mars, while his bandmates drew their collective moniker from a Japanese science fiction movie. Maybe the members of Question Mark and the Mysterians also saw themselves a bit as aliens in the rock world, since they all had a Mexican background, which was certainly an unusual combination in the 60s for a band having a number one hit in the States. Here is a short band history. The band with the goofy as well as strange moniker were from Bay City in Michigan. The band members' families actually had Mexican roots. Originally a trio formed in 1962, they played surf rock instrumentals. By the mid-60s, influenced by the popular sound of the British invasion, the band started looking for a different style and most of all, a charismatic singer. They found him in the drummer's brother, Rudy Martinez. He took on the eccentric stage persona of Question Mark and also began to shape the new garage rock sound of the band. Eventually, the lineup expanded with keyboard player Frank Rodriguez. Now the sound of the band was complete. Their own composition, 96 Tears, originally meant to be only the B-side of their debut single, became a hit with local radio stations. This created interest of the label Cameo Parkway Records. Backed up by the label, Question Mark and the Mysterians were booked for popular and wide-reaching TV shows, helping the single 96 Tears to the number one spot in the US Hot 100 in October 1966. To take advantage of the moment, their debut album compiled that song, a couple of other singles and some supposedly filler material, as was the typical label practice with many bands in the 60s. Like a lot of beat and garage rock bands of the mid-60s, Question Mark and the Mysterians only had a fleeting moment in the spotlight. During their active years, they only released 2 albums, and 96 Tears remains the only song they are still remembered for. On their debut, all built around the aforementioned hit, Question Mark and the Mysterians present themselves as a young band eager to look cool. One can hardly blame them for that. Let's find out whether 96 Tears is a soppy affair and go through the album. One would probably expect the band to put the hit single at the beginning of the album, but Question Mark and the Mysterians start with I Need Somebody. This was the follow-up single to 96 Tears, and it is also based on a very memorable hook line played by the organ. It is that instrument that defines the band's sound more than anything else. I Need Somebody already was their last single to reach a noteworthy chart position, number 22 in the United States. And yet, it is a fine slice of 60s garage, paving the way for punk music.
Hey! Alright, yeah, come on now. That's right, yeah, yeah, alright. I need somebody to help me out. Yeah, I need somebody to work it out.
The only cover version, T-Bone Walker's Stormy Monday, is track 2. a debut album filled with originals in 1966 actually was quite a remarkable thing. Frontman Rudy Martinez even co-produced the album. They certainly did not lack ambitions. Stormy Monday is a nice 60s bar band rendition, but certainly not the reason why you would want to get this album. You're Telling Me Lies, the next song, had originally been released on an EP in early 1966. It's a typical 60s stomper from the garage that gives you a good time.
You're telling me lies, you're putting me down, you're starting to make me cry. You told me this morning you love me so, but still I know you lie. You better stop, girl, you better stop now. You're telling me lies, you're putting me down, you're starting to make me cry.
10 O'Clock is full-on 60s garage punk, not unlike Early Love or 13th Floor Elevators. This speedy riff-based track is a 60s macho dream. If she's not there by 10 o'clock, her name in his address book will be replaced with another girl's name.
10 o'clock and it's too late, babe. You missed your train, now your name's erased. My little black book that held your name now holds another girl in place.
Then we get a break with the slower, bluesy Set Aside. This instrumental features cool piano and seems to have been written for a glass of whiskey in a seedy bar. Side A ends with the groovy Upside. Again, the organ is the dominating instrument and almost gives the listeners a little pre-taste of The Doors. It's a bit of a pity that this track, this little nugget, is hidden at the end of side 1. I think it's a fantastic track.
I got love so true, got love so right, I got love so kind, and baby that's no lie. Got love, baby, got love, baby, I got love so fine, and baby that's no lie.
In its second half, the album consequently continues in this vein. The song 18 is an R&B informed stomping garage rocker with slightly suggestive lyrics. Could easily have been another garage hit.
I had 18 arms to hold you, I had 18 lips to kiss you, I had 18 ways to love you, and still I wonder why you left me. Yeah, alright, baby, come on back.
After that, the album goes on with a couple of very short tracks, almost like half-baked ideas or demo versions. Don't Tease Me, for example, clocks in at only 1 minute and 34 seconds. It starts with a kind of fairground organ, but quickly gets back into the groove the band had established on the cuts before. With mostly just 2 chords, this is garage rock at its most basic. There is something cool and gritty underneath the sound that you won't find with more pop-oriented bands from the same time. The next one, Don't Break This Heart of Mine, continues the groovy 60s party. This time it's a bass line, not the most assured instrument if you listen more carefully to the recordings, that provides the track's backbone. Why Me, song number 10, is also under 2 minutes long. It's a bit softer and more pop-sounding. All very pleasant but short and simple songs. Side 2, however, is not just filled with filler tracks to arrive at a full album runtime. Midnight Hour, the song that was originally intended to become the band's first single but then was overshadowed by 96 Tears, is included here. It's a pleasant blues number, but nothing too spectacular, and I can really see why 96 Tears eventually was favored and became the A-side. So what about the only famous hit this band ever had? Very unusually, the big hit is the very last song, on side 2. The song, of course, describes the results of a decidedly aggressive type of onion that lead singer once sliced in his kitchen. I'm kidding, of course. 96 Tears worms its way into your musical memory by means of its very effective, simple organ hook line played by Frank Rodriguez. The rhythm is almost swaying mid-tempo. Compared to some of the more raucous moments on the album, the sound is actually quite laid back. The smash hit about heartbreak and revenge fantasies, oddly, is musically a feel-good song, thanks to that organ. If you've never heard 96 Tears before, it's really time to catch up on your 60s classics. Why exactly 96 Tears? Your guess is as good as mine.
And then I'm gonna put you way down here, and you'll start crying. 96 tears. Cry.
Question Mark and the Mysterians had a short time in the public eye. After their debut, only one more album followed in 1967, which failed to chart. The band disbanded, but had a reunion in the 90s. 96 Tears, the album, was successful but not exactly a bestseller. It reached number 66 in the US charts. What this is, though, is a great glimpse into the garage scene of the mid-60s. This music provided a bit of an alternative to the cleaner pop sounds of those days. The music of Question Mark and the Mysterians is simple, very rudimentary, and sometimes a bit crude, but it's got a lot of swagger and a vague aura of darkness and danger. If you can get a kick out of simplistic, maybe even a bit lo-fi 60s rock, you might enjoy this album as much as I do. Such albums are a bit ragged and by no means forgotten masterpieces, but if well made and paced like 96 Tears, they can be a whole lot of fun. And that's what this music mostly was all about. By the way, wearing cool sunglasses can also help when cutting onions. Nos vemos. Actually, these are 3D glasses. Ooh. Ooh. Ah. Ooh.